Okay. Hi, Tiff. Hi, everybody from Seattle. My question is about the migrants that you write about so eloquently, and what what you would expect the effect of the lockdown and the COVID-19 crisis would be on the migrants.
Yeah, well, good question. Thank you, Dori. I'm sadly I'm quite worried about what's going to happen, and so far the early signs are not positive at all. So as I mentioned earlier, we have some very interesting research right off the bat, the first 2 months of the COVID-19 lockdowns in China from Stanford, which shows that something like up to $100 billion in migrant wages have already been lost. And that research also looks, asks questions like how many of people have actually been able to return to their jobs, and in many cases, it's a very small number. It also looks at health issues. On the positive side, there were lockdowns, of course, in villages across China where these migrants come from, and of course they were back for the Lunar New Year, so they were not in the cities or at their place of employment usually when this happened, and so the lockdowns that happened in the villages as well, according to this survey, suggest that they were effective in controlling COVID-19 infections, which is very good news. But at the same time, they've been devastating for the incomes of these migrant workers, not just returning to the cities, but also off-farm work, typically in the local township, whether it's driving a little truck or whatever it is. Those opportunities have also apparently completely dried up. It's had an impact. There's other interesting things. It's had an impact on children's school, migrant children's school, of course. It's also had an impact on getting access to healthcare that's not COVID-19 related, not surprisingly. So going forward, I'm concerned in part because the opportunities for migrant workers in certain cities, certainly in the big showcase cities like Beijing and Shanghai, had already been diminishing. And the attitudes, again, in the big showcase cities, including many provincial capitals towards the migrants, was not very positive. In many cases like Beijing and Shanghai, they actually have set population targets which are reduced, and they are actively trying to make the migrants leave, doing things like shutting down the small private schools that have catered to migrant children in the cities when the children have come with their parents. With COVID-19 and fears of outsiders, I'm concerned that this trend, which is sort of this anti-migrant trend that you see in many bigger cities, is only going to become stronger.